In Victorian times, Ventnor on the Isle of Wight was reputed to have the healthiest climate in Britain. The Royal National Chest Hospital stood here from 1869 to 1964. The southerly aspect and fresh sea breezes combine with sweet country air along the St Lawrence Undercliff. Perfect for patients and plants, this semi-tropical microclimate now sustains one of England's finest gardens. The Isle of Wight is only 2 hours away from London, but surprisingly, this part of the island coast is mild and sunny. A wide variety of species, some too tender for the winter frosts elsewhere in Britain, thrive easily here at Ventnor.
Which is one?
The curator is the highly experienced and talented botanist Simon Goodenough.
Echiums from the Canary Islands, Ventnor Botanic Garden's speciality. The nice thing about them, of course, is that they grow where we can't grow anything else, on rocky banks. We started this project about 9 years ago by scattering seed. We have things that arrive at about 16 feet, and everybody calls them triffids or giant lupins or anything but what they actually are. They're echiums and they last exactly 2 years. And then once they're flowered, they set seed and start all over again. And we have one of the largest stands of them in the British Isles. From the point of view of this particular plant, we have a Canary Island endemic plant, which obviously grows in a climate that experiences but little frost, and so it gives an indication of how mild we are here. Just a beautiful, beautiful plant, and the thing I like about it is it's just a long succession of flowers. You can see there's a bud there, or buds there, and they all open out and they just keep going and they produce an endless succession of these little flowers. Each individual flower doesn't last actually all that long. Once they've been heavily worked by bees and pollinated, they quickly set seed. But you get several weeks display, and so the back end of May and the beginning of June is always an echium time for us. Across the British Isles and Ireland, we're actually able to grow probably the largest collection of plants anywhere in the world.
The garden was opened in 1972. Its 22 acres lie in a valley right beside the sea cliffs on the southern tip of the island. Each year, it averages 250,000 visitors.
The British Empire in its heyday was responsible for all sorts of crops being taken all over the world, and botanic gardens were instrumental in establishing things like rubber plantations in Malaya and banana cultivation in the Canary Islands. It all happened as a result of Botanic Garden.
Expert gardeners and botanists come from all over the country to compare notes. New research and development is greatly enhanced by this shared field experience. It also gives Simon quick access to new and different plant stocks that otherwise might take many seasons to find and propagate.
It's a lovely plant though, beautiful plant.
Yeah, we'll get these buddlier.
I don't see many butterflies. You get your share of butterflies here.
Yeah.
Not many on here though.
Bees, lots of bees at the minute.
It's lovely. It's festooning with lovely flowers.
But some of them are definitely tender, because they're even tender here.
Yes. Well, you're the only person that can grow them.
The nice thing about this, of course, is that it flowers after a couple of seasons. It's into it. It does it every year. It's not a real showstopper big flower, but if people have got a small garden, they can get close to this. It's got this wonderful sort of silvery outside to the flowers.
The great storm that raged across the south of England in 1987 ravaged the garden and nearly destroyed it. It took 2 years to clean up the damage, and some of the original trees and Victorian vegetation were lost forever. But with hard work and painstaking effort, most of it was rescued, replanted and thus restored.
Absolutely full of seed, just right for getting going. Now this plant here, most people walk past it and say, good grief, it's dead, because it's this brown colour. A lot of the plants from New Zealand have this interesting brown colour and strange divaricating growth, it's called. This is a coprosma, and kopros is the Greek word for dung. So basically it's got its name because of its foul smell. And this one's Coprosma rugosa with these wonderful seeds. It's a bit like tomato seeds, you know. Strangely enough, I never saw any of the New Zealand birds eating this. I don't know whether they're poisonous or what. It's in the same family as coffee. I don't know of any native use of the plant. But Coprosmas are one of the national collections we've got. And not many people know them or grow them. And certainly a plant with a name for dung, I think, needs all the friends it can get. It's quite interesting if you look at similar climate types, the Mediterranean, the chaparral in California, down in New Zealand, you get this type of vegetation look. The same in South Africa. They all sort of mesh together, and they bind in this controlled mess of vegetation, which is good against aridity, it's good against wind, and wherever you've got a similar climate, you get a similar look to the structure of the plants. Phormium's a wonderful plant of New Zealand, and there's lots of varieties of them. The phormium was brought to my attention quite strongly by a party of blind people who I was taking around the garden. I walked into the New Zealand garden, and it was a nice breezy day, and the phormiums were doing this sort of thing. The chap I was with, who'd been blind from birth, said, oh, this is a very different garden, this is lovely. Well, it just sounds so different. And I'd never really thought about the sound of plants as being an integral part of garden design, but I now look at these things with a very different attitude.
The optimism and inspired ideas of these gardeners is very evident as they turn their creative vision into reality.
It's all to do with soul and feeling and passion. Passion's important. I don't think you can have a passionless gardener. That's why I'm so fortunate here, really. The staff feel their job. It's not just a case of turning up and doing it. It is an entirely subjective thing, gardening as well. That's the other thing which makes it such a pleasure.
A lifetime's passion for sweet peas has realised the childhood dreams of one of the gardeners here. 3 times winner of the Daily Mail Cup and many other national awards, Keith Brewer spends all his time in pursuit of new colours and the perfect bloom. He's an authority on sweet peas, though he modestly denies it, and he nurtures every single plant with the same infinite care.
This was bred by Dr. Keith Hammett, and some years ago when it first was introduced, I grew it and actually won the Hammett Cup with it. It's a blue, dark blue standard with a light blue wings, and it's a big Spencer one, and it's got the frill. Well, it's not got the frill really. It's got a little frill, but not much. The Clay Cup is the highest award you can win really for sweet peas, and that exactly the same. That was always my boyhood dream. I used to read about it in the National Sweet Pea Society's annual every year and look at the people winning it, and that really was my accolade. That's the 3rd time I've won the Clay Cup, but every time you win it is a certain ping, and that's for best flowers in the show.
Botanic gardens really started off as gardens of medicinal plants. They were physic gardens where plants that were useful to man were being grown and planted.
There's a long history for treating disease with herbs and flowers dating back centuries to the monastery gardens. The medicinal garden is Julian Winslow's passion, and he helped to create this area.
This used to be a croquet lawn for the hospital, and was just a bare lawn when we first started. So Simon and I came out and marked out our designs upon it.
The healing power of flower essence fascinates Julian, and he is constantly exploring the curative properties of plants. But there are dangers in gardens too.
This plant here is a plant known by name, but not a lot by the way it looks. This is deadly nightshade, a Tropa belladonna, a very poisonous plant, which a lot of people mistake woody nightshade for, but the flowers are very obvious, tubular, sort of dark purple to green. But when these flowers go over, they get a night black, glossy little tomato on the end, which you just like to pop into your mouth. But of course, if you do, they're very, very poisonous. Many modern medicines were originally synthesized from plants. Aspirin from willow and meadowsweet, ephedrine from ephedra, and digitalin from foxglove. A lot of the plants actually in this part of the garden are British natives, probably more than anywhere else in the garden. Partly because they have a history of use in herbal medicine and medicine in general, and partly because I really like them and I think they're underrated.
If a plant were to smile, Julian says it would be with its flower. The bloom is the ultimate outward expression of its life and energy.
Just look at that. Perfection. One of the evening primroses. There's lots and lots of them. And this is a delightful little one. Oenothera striatum. It's for women's troubles. Evening primrose was the herbal remedy of the late 1980s. And it suddenly appeared on all the chemist shelves. Evening primrose soap, shampoo, tablets, capsules, oil. A lot of people are allergic to it. So there we go. It's not quite so much in favour now. We've had tea tree and we've had lavender and rosemary. But a delightful plant.
With long days of summer sunshine, the humidity of the Gulf Stream, and a little salt on the air to keep the winter frosts at bay, it's a pleasure to come here, in any season of the year and at any age. There are collections from across the globe, from the Americas, Australia, New Zealand, the Pacific Islands, and the sunny Mediterranean. And there are stylised areas like the subtropical garden and the mixed borders. The Victorians were keen collectors and brought specimens back from all over the world to propagate and study.
Education is, as far as I'm concerned, the prime mover for growing a collection of plants like this. And I mean education in the broader sense, everything from introducing young children to the joy and beauty of nature through plant collections, using the plant collections for everything from geography to religious knowledge to maths. You can use it for all of that. It's all possible. You can measure things, you can draw things, you can use it for art purposes. And then we can just talk pure plant science.
Now, with funding from the Millennium Commission, plans have been drawn up to build a modern visitors centre. This will include an exciting educational project focusing on plant evolution and the planet's environment.
Steel beam going across there.
Isn't the canopy going here?
Yeah, okay.
First, the land must be cleared. The old tavern has to be taken down to make way for the new structure. The last remnants of the old hospital, the carved stone coats of arms, are carefully removed and carried away. They will be returned later and sited in the new centre to commemorate the original Victorian hospital buildings. One sad loss will be the beautiful treescape above the garden.
The last few days of the strawberry tree. It's been here since the Victorians planted it when the hospital was built, and it's about to meet its maker. Sad, but progress.
At the other end of the garden are the quiet, moist surroundings of the temperate house. Here rare and endangered species from around the world are given tender, loving care by the resident propagator. This is Sarah.
The collections in the house are subdivided geographically. So we have behind me here a collection of South African plants. To my right you have a collection of New Zealand plants. On the far side there's a collection of South American plants. And at the far end of the temperate house there's a collection of Australian plants and also a collection of Pseudopanax, which is one of our national collections. Dotted around there are also some plants from the Canary Islands and some plants from places like Mauritius and some of the islands. A lot of the island floras are particularly endangered, mostly obviously through loss of habitat. This plant here is a bird of paradise, or Strelitzia regina, as its Latin name is. Its particular claim to fame is that it's actually pollinated by birds. The bird comes in, he's going for the nectar, which you can just see here is this liquid at the base. He flies in slowly, he lands on the blue platform with his feet, and the pollen here is this white substance at the base there. That collects on his feet and his feathers, and then when he flies to the next flower, he pollinates it. There you can see the pollen on my finger. This little plant here on the floor is called a Fuchsia procumbens. It's actually quite rare in its native habitat, although you wouldn't think it from the way it grows with us here in Ventnor. It has little tiny flowers which you wouldn't really associate with the type of fuchsias that you grow at home in your hanging baskets. They're just very small. The petals are barely visible, but the one thing that it does have is this wonderful blue pollen. And the pollen of this plant was actually used by the Maoris for their war paint. If I just pop that on my hand, there you are, you can see just like eyeshadow. This is Hibiscus fragilis. It's a plant which comes from the island of Mauritius and is extremely endangered in its habitat, its wild habitat. The hibiscus attracts its pollinators by giving generous amounts of nectar, which are stored at the very base of the plant here in the nectary. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can tip the flower and actually drink the nectar. Like all the other gardeners in the gardens, you do feel very protective about some of these plants, particularly things like the Nesacodon. A very rare plant, this one, the bell shape, typical of the Campanulaceae flower. We can see inside the beautiful markings and the bright orange nectar.
Well, we had to remove this buddleia today because the garden's basically split up into geographical areas, and this one's in the wrong area, so it has to come out. It's a sort of new definition of weed, really, a plant in the wrong place. This one was in the Mediterranean when it should be in China.
Gardening is actually, I think, very brutal. It is a contrivance, and if you want it to remain looking good, it's just walking around, keeping an eye on it, having different ideas, starting again. Just to feel for it, and that's, I think, is the thing. You're dealing with a group of plants that you know very well, and you know what sort of life expectancy they're going to have, you know the sort of problems you're going to have, and you know the given area that you've decided to put over to them, so you can think about it and think, well, we've got 5 or 6 good years out of this collection of plants, so over that 5 or 6 year period we've got to do something about rejuvenating them or changing the plantings. So you start working on a program that's a rolling program.
High up on the hill, above the garden, there's an ongoing production line in the commercial nursery. Here Jan and Tina raise hundreds of young plants from the garden's own stock of rare species. Some of these are planted back into the Botanic Garden itself, and some are taken to the shop in the Temperate House to be sold to the public. Having seen such unusual plants growing here at Ventnor, why not try 1 or 2 of them in your own garden? The garden is an active training ground for young people, giving work experience and expert horticultural advice in a hands-on environment. And there's a thriving society of friends and keen volunteers, helping to keep everything in the garden lovely. For the gardening team, the maintenance is constant, every day, every season. It's autumn, and as usual, the friends join in on the vitally important work of gathering and sorting seed.
Little fingers.
Just hope they come to germinate.
What is germinating is the new building. During its construction, the gardeners have had to find new positions for plants and reshape and redesign whole areas. Sometimes it's been really hard to maintain the garden's normally tranquil atmosphere. As the new building heads towards completion, there's expectation and excitement for Simon and his staff. In May 2000, the new visitors centre is open to the public. With interactive displays, exhibitions, computer link-ups and a reference library, it will truly be a valuable national botanic and horticultural resource. He who loves a garden still his Eden keeps, perennial pleasures plants, and wholesome harvest reaps.
Oh, look at this. Birds singing, it's fantastic, and I just love this garden. It feels marvellous. It's good to be alive.
If you would like to know more about the Ventnor Botanic Garden, the address to write to is Ventnor Botanic Garden, Undercliff Drive, Ventnor, Isle of Wight, PO 38 1UL. You may also email the garden at simon@vbg1.demon.co.uk.